Alright, I got a comment earlier today asking me when I was going to start making Seahawks videos for the off season because, you know, there's a lot to talk about, and I guess the answer to that question is now because I'm making this video. But basically, this off season, I'm going to try to make a lot of content because it's important. And this off season can determine whether or not we can go from here, which is, pretty good, to here, which is actually competing for a Super Bowl. And if we do things right, we can go from here to here. If we don't, we're probably stuck right there. So yeah, I'm gonna try to make pre-draft, free agency, post-draft, post-free agency, all that shit. I'm gonna try to make videos for all that shit. So first thing on my mind, because I got all kinds of comments in my last video. The most recent one being, when are you going to start making Seahawks offseason videos? Which the answer to that is now. I got some comments from people saying we need to go get another wide receiver, which I very much doubt that, guys. This offense is going to waste. If we actually got another stud wide receiver, like, there are some people saying that we should trade for Antonio Brown. If that happened, we just waste him. We don't have a need for Antonio Brown in this offense. We have good receivers on this team, honestly. That's not the problem. So I don't really buy into that. There was some negativity on Shaquille Griffin, which he didn't play well, and he had an inconsistent season, but I feel like he's going to get better next year, and I think we'll know a lot more about his future after his 2019 campaign is over, because as a rookie, he was good for a rookie, and this year we saw some of this, the good stuff, but we also saw some of this. Penalties, missed tackles, bad coverage, not getting his head around to look at the ball, shit like that. Some people were saying that we need to go get another shutdown corner. I don't believe that. Some people were saying, we need to get this or that. A lot of stuff that you do when your season ends in the wild card round to a team that you probably kind of sort of expected to beat going in. But most of the negative comments, most of the ire was very reasonably directed at Brian Schottenheimer and the offensive game that he called. And I had one person in particular, I can't remember his name, he asked me, why aren't you getting more angry? Why don't you get more angry? We just lost a game that we should have won. Why aren't you more upset about the way this season ended? Why aren't you more upset at Schottenheimer? He can't hurt me anymore, guys. Sorry about that. That's my dog up there. I don't know if you can hear that or not. But Brian Schottenheimer can't hurt me, guys. I mostly resigned myself to it when I heard that we signed him. And now that I've seen it in action, I'm not going to let it hurt me. I know what he is. I know what he was when he was in New York and St. Louis. And I know what he is now. I don't believe he's going to change. He and Pete Carroll had both said a couple of things that made me go, maybe, but I'll believe it when I see it. He's a guy who believes in the run, pass. That's basically his nickname in the NFL, run, pass. And I haven't seen any signs that, other than once or twice over the course of a season, he'll actually be able to get away from that enough to, throw defenses off the scent. And we're stuck because we did good enough last year to keep him around for at least one more season, at least. I promise you that Pete Carroll likes the way the offense played this year. I kind of don't, but I promise you that Pete Carroll loves that shit. I mean, we had an offense that was below average in yards, above average in points. We didn't turn the ball over. We had the best rushing attack in the league, or one of the best. And basically, we kept ourselves in every game we played. The passing attack was efficient. Wilson's, touchdown to interception ratio was 5-1 or whatever it was. Basically we did the stuff that Pete Carroll wanted us to be able to do. So we're stuck. And there are positives to the Brian Schottenheimer experience that I didn't expect. Wilson did put his game back together after, last year, in my opinion, he looked broken in some of those games. This season, he really did bounce back from that and post his best statistical year in a while. We did get better at running the ball. We did get better at protecting the quarterback, even though Wilson got sacked a lot. He had the opportunity to make plays more than he did in the last few years. And we didn't turn the ball over very much. So there are good things about Schottenheimer, but there does seem to be a limit on how high it can go. And I don't ever see this Seahawks offense with Brian Schottenheimer being great. Write that down somewhere right now if you want to. Brian Schottenheimer will never be the architect of a great offense in Seattle. We will have good offenses like we did this year, but we will never be one of the 5 or 6 best offenses in the NFL, I don't think. Not with him. And I'm not going to let that piss me off anymore because I've accepted it. I accept that the best thing that we can do as an organization is build an elite defense so we can win enough games to get home field advantage and then win playoff games, even though our offense, sometimes it's just not going to be there because it's not a great offense, and it never is going to be because we don't prioritize scoring points. And as sad as that is, that's the reality that I have to accept. I partially accepted it when we made the hire, and now that I've seen it in action for a year, I'm just going to be happy when it works rather than getting all pissed off when it doesn't, because I've resigned myself to it. I mean, and don't take that as a endorsement of Brian Schottenheimer at all. I mean, if you want me to get pissed off about it, I can take a couple minutes. Riddle me this. Week 2, the Seahawks travel to Chicago to play the Bears, one of the best defenses in the league. Second or third best, probably. We have no Doug Baldwin. At that point in time, we don't know that Tyler Lockett is a monster yet. As far as we know, he's just another good receiver. We don't have David Moore yet. He hasn't done anything. Jaron Brown hasn't done anything as a Seahawk yet. I think maybe he has 1 catch. We have no Ed Dickson. We do have Will Dissly, but he's had 1 game in his career, 1 good game. And in that game, we're down by a touchdown. The running game is not going great, but it's, we're playing on a crappy field at night. It's cold. And Wilson is not playing well, and that's the game you throw the ball 14 times in a row. That's the game where you just throw, have Wilson chuck it around. You're punting. Eventually the game gets out of hand. In the fourth quarter, you finally put together some drives, and then, of course, it just gives out before you can finish the comeback. But so that's the game where you let Wilson sling it. This playoff game last week against the Cowboys, we have Doug Baldwin. Lockett has had a phenomenal season in terms of efficiency. We have Ed Dickson. I know, not Jaron Brown, David Moore. I know we didn't use David Moore in the playoff game, but he has actually shown potential as being a capable receiver. Jaron Brown has done a few things for us to the point where we can rely on him a little bit. Wilson looks like he's on cue, on point. He's slinging the rock around, accurately hitting guys. His deep ball is on, and that's the game where you don't let him go crazy. That's the game where you take the air out of the ball and just run it. I don't get that. Yeah, I want to be pissed off about that, but I've made myself numb to it because we're stuck with this Schottenheimer shit, and sometimes it'll work, but there are going to be plenty of times where it doesn't, and sometimes you get what you get. Last week in Dallas, I got to accept it. And, like I said, Schottenheimer did say some stuff about how, hey, our offense could evolve next year. Pete Carroll said, yeah, we probably should have passed the ball more as this game went on earlier this week. And both those things are encouraging, but I'll believe that it matters when I see it. So, of course, there's no getting away from the fact that Brian Schottenheimer is limiting what this offense can do. But I learned something this weekend. 2 days ago, I watched the Dallas Cowboys, the team that beat us, go into LA and play the Rams. And I know the Rams had a week off. I know they're a different beast. I know that they're better than us in many, many positions. They have more talent than us. And I know that coaching has something to do with this because they're less predictable. But I feel like I learned a little something watching that game. The Rams ran the ball as much as we did. The Rams ran the ball 48 times. C.J. Anderson came off the bench, murdered the Cowboys, a $123 and a touchdown, or 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley injured, 7 yards a carry, 115 yards and a touchdown. They ran for nearly 300 yards. What did we run for against that same Dallas defense? We had one good running play the whole game, the Rashad Penny run. Other than that, there was nothing there. We could not run the ball at all against the same defense that I watched go out there the very next week. And even though Jared Goff did them no favors in that game, played the most mediocre game you can, the Rams just bowled over that Cowboys defense. And again, coaching has something to do with it, but our players just might not be as good as I thought, because I was high on this offensive line. I know there were a couple guys out there playing injured. Sweezy and Fluker were both probably not 100%. Maybe Dwayne Brown isn't 100%. But while I'm happy to put this on Schottenheimer, we also need to take a look at some of these players, because I think maybe I overrated some of these guys. I don't really know what else you can say about it other than that. We got to take that game last night or 2 nights ago as a learning experience, that these guys on the offensive line that I've been in praise of, they might not be as good as we're giving them credit for. So I need to scale that back a little bit. I'm putting this all on Brian Schottenheimer. I shouldn't be doing that. Neither should you as fans. We got guys on the offensive line, Britt, Sweezy, Fluker, and especially Ifedi, who are okay. Maybe I'll give Fluker better than okay. I would give Dwayne Brown better than okay. Everybody else, we can improve massively. And Saturday night's divisional round playoff game with the Cowboys and the Rams, that was like a reality check for me. These guys, they can be replaced, and we can easily find somebody better. We took a step in the right direction this year. Obviously, the offensive line was a lot better than it was in the last few years, but they're not the road grader, dominant offensive line that I was maybe hyping them up to be, because we had several good games. Because proof's in the pudding, guys. Oh, and meanwhile, while we're at it, not that anybody should be really surprised by this, but the Cowboys could not run the ball at all. And that Cowboys offense ran the ball pretty dang well against us the previous week. And the Rams, not even that good at running the ball. Stopping the run. We ran the ball for like combined 500 yards across 2 games this year against that Rams team. Team's just not as good as we want to give it credit for, I think. And you want to get frustrated with the coaches. Of course, I do too. But that is the one thing I'm thinking about right now. I need to stop overrating these players on the offensive line. They're good. They get the job done, but they are clearly outclassed by the ones that you see on teams that we need to compete with. We don't need to be competing with, second or third tier teams like the Cowboys and the Panthers. We need to get up there with teams like the Rams. And I know we played the Rams tough this year. I know we beat the Chiefs, but on the whole, we are not on their level. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Go Hawks. Going to be a fun conference championship weekend. And that is my number one takeaway right now. Blame the coaches if you want to. Pin the blame on Schottenheimer. Don't fall into the trap of thinking it's all about him, though. I see other fans of other fan bases do it. I have Steelers fans who I know who are like, oh, Mike Tomlin is the worst coach in the league. If we fired Mike Tomlin and got a competent head coach, we'd go 16-0 every year. Cowboys fans, Jason Garrett is a moron. If we got rid of Jason Garrett, we'd win the Super Bowl every year. Our talent is this. Our players are the best in the league. It's rarely that simple. And don't fall into that trap. Your players might not be as good as you're giving them credit for. And I think that's maybe what's going on here, because that Rams rushing attack on Saturday night it made me think. All right, peace out.